I'm pleased to be able to say that we're joined today for a special tech extra by Caley Fretz of Velonews. Caley is normally based in Boulder, Colorado, but spends most of the summer in Europe with his ear to the ground, going to the races and finding out the latest tech news. So Caley, how's it going here at the Giro? There's not too much new products, but you found some pretty interesting stuff.
No, it's a little early for most of the new stuff. We're going to see a whole lot rolled out shortly before the Tour, usually Dauphiné, Tour de Suisse. But we have seen a couple new things. We've seen brand new wheels from Mavic, Cadel Evans on a new frame. We've seen Bradley Wiggins training on a new TT bike.
Let's start with Bradley's TT bike, shall we? What were your first reactions to it?
It falls very close to the, I'm sure they're pushing the boundaries of the 3-to-1 ratio. It honestly looks like maybe a collaborative project with some of the Team GB engineers, because a lot of the features, particularly in the front end and the aero bar region, look a lot like Bradley's TT bike from the Olympics last year. Other than that, integrated brakes, they say it's about 15% stiffer and significantly faster against the wind, so should be a good improvement for him if he chooses to ride it, or if he can ride it in the upcoming time trial. Interestingly, the only size that is UCI approved so far is Wiggins' size. It's a 55, so obviously he will be the only one riding it at the next time trial, I think.
Yeah, that is quite a special advantage for him, potentially, there. Now, you mentioned as well about Cadel Evans' new BMC. It's interesting in that it's clearly designed for lightweight and nothing to do with aerodynamics.
No, definitely not. You know, BMC has their TMR01, their aero machine, which a couple of the riders are on, generally the guys that are either going to be sprinting on a flat stage or going to be pulling all day. But Cadel's stuck with their light climbing bike. The new one is even wider at the bottom bracket. It's really quite big and chunky. It's apparently lighter than the last version. Not a whole lot of changes from the old model. It looks like I said, a little bit lighter, probably a little bit stiffer. Probably the next version of the Team Machine SL01, which they've had for a couple of years now.
Now let's talk a little bit about rider preference with these bikes, because unlike a few years ago where teams had one stock frame for each rider, you know, there's a selection now, isn't there? They've got their classics bikes, they've got their light climbing bikes, and they've got their aero bikes. But it's very interesting to see who chooses what, and there is a real disparity even within individual teams. Absolutely.
I think most of the teams now have some sort of option. They have, most of the bike manufacturers have some sort of aero bike at this point. Most riders, particularly most GC riders, are still sticking with the lightweight bikes, which it doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you look at the math, but it's perhaps what they're used to, and they don't spend a whole lot of time alone in the wind until the very end of races anyway. So perhaps they go for ride quality and lightweight over the aerodynamic benefits. You know, these guys have different set of considerations than your average rider, I would say. They also have quite a bit of sort of history with whatever bike that they've chosen to ride. A lot of the aero bikes have funky brake designs that they maybe don't trust as much as they would trust a traditional brake. You know, for your average rider who's going to go out and just wants to hammer the hour at lunch or the hour before work in the morning and wants to do that a little bit faster, the aero bike's a great option.
Cool, so let's go to wheels now. You mentioned that there are riders here on a new Mavic wheel, and also Zipp testing out a new hub, I believe, under Mark Cavendish. Both of these are the wider aerodynamic rims. That's, you know, reflecting a trend everywhere now.
Absolutely. Cavendish is on, they won't really say, but it looks to me like similar to their new disc hub, which tells me it's probably from their latest group, with some extra spokes for extra stiffness. The rim is the same as traditional 808 or a 404. Mavic has brought out a shallower version of their CXR 80, which they debuted mid-summer last year. And that's a wider rim at the brake track than they've done in the past. It doesn't have the same toroidal shape as a Zipp or a Head or an Envy rim.
And these wider rims are also giving us this new trend of wider tyres as well. Now, you picked up on this last summer, I believe.
Sure, yeah. I'd say that probably 90% of the field is now on 25C tyres, 25mm tyres. It was started a couple years ago. With the wider rims, the wide tire interface is a little bit better. It's not necessarily more aerodynamic than a 23, but it's less of a disadvantage than it used to be. A 25 with a narrow rim was a significant aero disadvantage, but a 25 with a wide rim is less so. And with the increases in traction and comfort and decreases in rolling resistance, it's become a much better option. On top of that, companies like Shimano, which have really gotten into the wheel business in the last couple of years, they're pushing their wheels really hard at the Pro Tour level. I think there are 4 or 5 teams here all riding Shimano. They actually told mechanics not to run anything lower than a 25 last year. And so all those teams have been on 25 for about a year now.
Great stuff. Thanks for joining us, Caley. And obviously, if you want any more super in-depth tech news, then head over to Velonews.
G'day, I'm George Bennett.
Hi, I am Elia Viviani.
Hi, I'm Alex Dowsett. For the next 3 weeks, I might